Well, growing up, I went by the name Jamie. My mom gave me that name, so I grew up in the Great Heights community. So everybody in the neighborhood knew me as Jamie, this guy who was always like around just doing stuff, and I was always playing with my friends in the woods and stuff like that. So a lot of folks knew that I grew up with knew that I was like a book reader, as a nerd kind of person. So I always involved in school activities, stuff like that. And a lot of times I was just around different people, not just people in my neighborhood. So I was like an outgoing person growing up. So I think people knew that about me. This was my safe haven, probably the only place that in Charlotte that I felt safe, was my neighborhood park. I spent a lot of time in the benches up here, but where I slept every night with my totes and everything is down in the woods here. I grew up in the Great Heights community, so this park meant a lot to me, and it was kind of like bringing me back to a safe place. I was comfortable. I knew people. I knew I wasn't going to be any danger, so instead of living downtown, I decided to live here in my neighborhood with my bike. There was a little pathway right here that I would go into. And of course I had my totes in here so you couldn't really see them. Then this was all cleared out. It was cleared out more. Of course it's overgrown over the year and a half, 2 years since I've been in here. They used to come and weed eat it. So it used to be a lot clearer than it is, but it was right in here where I had my totes and food that I had, so I would be eating here. I used the community center to warm up my food. But yeah, this was my home. My college, my Harvard was in the woods, in the park, with some totes. That was my Harvard. Recently, I turned my tassel over. So, you know what I'm saying? So I and everybody who comes out of homelessness should turn their tassel. Because coming through homelessness, I mean, you have to be a strong person. You have to be an extremely strong person to come through homelessness and with some sense of sanity, you know, because it's a struggle just to try to get something to eat, just your basic needs. And that's one of the things that I want to help Charlotte to do, is just help to provide people just basic, fundamental needs. Some place to live and something to eat. That should be basic in everybody's life, right? Every family should have those basic things, and so I think that's where my work is going, being that voice for those folks that are voiceless.
I'm Liz Clayson Kelly. I'm CEO of Roof Above. I started doing this work when I was 19. I had a summer internship on this campus at what was then Urban Ministry Center, and in that internship I experienced God in new ways and learned about myself in new ways and experienced joy I had not known before, even in the midst of great struggle, and that has caused me to devote my entire adult life to ending homelessness. So Urban Ministry Center and Men's Shelter merged in 2019. It was not a merger about efficiencies or saving money. Both nonprofits were in good and healthy places. It really was about 3 words: impact, scale, and voice. So we wanted to move the needle on ending homelessness, and we believed we were stronger and smarter together.
You know, you'll never go hungry in Charlotte because, you know, there's plenty of church people and people that come out that have God-fearing hearts and loving hearts that where they like to feed the homeless. You know, sometimes, you know, when we walk up the street, you know, you can walk beside a car, you can hear them lock the doors and everything because they don't understand.
So Roof Above is an entire continuum for individuals experiencing homelessness. So we start with street outreach. So we have a team that goes out to encampments, under bridges, to people sleeping outside to bring services to them. We have our day services center where I'm sitting right now. That's to offer basic needs like showers, laundry, mail, daily lunch to largely people who are unsheltered. And then we also have connection points here to housing. And then we have multiple emergency shelters. Most are serving men. We also operate Room in the Inn in the winter that serves families, women and men as well. So that's half of our work is serving people in homelessness. The other half is creating housing solutions. So we have hundreds of housing units, short-term, transitional, and permanent supportive housing to help create solutions, housing solutions for people who have been homeless.
You have 2 shots. You can go right down the road here, go to Urban Ministry. There's a place called Room in the Inn. If you get your 2 shots, and you're serious about it, and you go ask them, you can get the program, you can have sleeping churches at night, they come pick you up. And so you won't be homeless without a roof in nights. Go to Urban Ministry, Roof in the Inn.
I got me a sleeping bag, a couple blankets. I tried to, sneak them somewhere to get them. And then 10:30, I just finally respond and cover up the way I can, It's... Well, I'm saying like this. Now, if I'm not able to get into the roof rooms in the inn or down at the Statesville Avenue shelter, I'm going to survive.
Then.
I go get me a bando or try to find me a bando, some shelter over my head.
Or jump on that building over there and sneak in sleep.
I'm not no tent type of person. Because everybody don't come out the woods, because we here homeless. I'd rather have shelter, some kind of protection over my head, But I know a lot of people that do sleep in the tents, It's really about survival, especially if you're not able to get into these programs or these buildings that Roof Above supply, because they're a part of everything.
We, as cities, need to come up with something better. If I had the money or had the resources to say, can we take the boxes, what they call the steel boxes or containers, and build places for them? Why can't we just take some building and say this is going to be our shelter, and everybody pulls the money in? Of course it's going to take resources, and of course it's going to take a lot of time, but it's also helping our citizens and residents on the street. I can tell you, I probably have at least 4 people that I went to college with on the street, and I see them often. We wave. I just spoke with a guy last week that I know him very well, where back in the day, as they said, he helped to feed many disadvantaged people. But someplace down the line, he lost his footing, and now he's on the street. And I pointed him out to somebody the other day. I said, man, I remember when this guy worked at the police department. I remember this guy was helping people in need himself. And now he's on the street. And he said, time's a little tough. But I will never look down on somebody who's out on the street. Actually, I have a great relationship and have great conversations with the people on the streets.
I had to figure out, first I slept on this. And you see it's not that wide, right? Your body could, so the first few nights I slept on it because, you're always rolling in the bed, right? So you can imagine rolling off of this and falling on the ground. So I had to come up with stuff. I had to figure it out. So I had to figure out how to make it wider. So what I did, I went up to the school and I got some cardboard. And what I had to do, every night, I had to pull this out. I had to lay my cardboard down where it made it wider. I had to tie my cardboard down to this, so at least the cardboard was reaching here. So instead of being this thin, at least it was this thin. So I wasn't rolling off that much. So what I had to do, I had to take my blanket. I had to kind of roll it up like a sleeping bag, and I had to tuck my sleeping bag on top of the cardboard, and I had to tie that to the cardboard in the bench. So I had it tied here at my ankles, had it tied here like at my legs, and then of course it was tied here up at my head. So I would have to maneuver myself in my bed and like cover myself, and this is how I slept. And of course, like I say, the first few nights when you're rolling, I rolled off, so I had to, once I figured that out. And another thing I had to do, I had some tarp, some plastic. During the day I would have to tie it up here so that I could like kill the sun. And then at night too, most of the time these lights weren't on, but I would have to take the tarps where I had to put them up along here. Where like, cause usually the sun would rise over here, so I would have to put one here where when the sun came up, it wouldn't wake me up right away. So, but I had to put one like over here and here so that nobody could see me up on the hill and mess with me. Cause sometimes I was, I had a light down here so you wouldn't want nobody to see you from up there. A couple of times people walked on the path and I knew they knew I was down here, but they didn't bother me. But this is how I had to live for like 11 months. And I guess I just had to make it happen. I just had to. It was unfortunate space to be in, but I mean, I had to make the best of it, and I kind of did. So this became my safe place. So I ate here, I slept here, I did my work here. I even worked for, I did some, when people would come pick me up to work, I'd meet them up at the park, up at the benches up there. So, but they didn't know a lot of the times that I was sleeping down here. But when I went to work with them, they didn't know that I had to come back to this.
So I started Block Love about 4 years ago, and quite honestly, I have been serving for about 6 years in the Uptown area because it's where I work. So look, you work and you serve in the same area, but I would see the same people literally every single day. And instead of just offering them money, I started having conversations like, listen, I was learning their birth date, who their family members were, their favorite colors. I was, just celebrating life with them and not just treating them like somebody begging for money. I asked them what their needs were. And then in 2017, I found myself at a city council meeting, and I was supposed to be there talking about the warming stations for Mecklenburg County, but instead I found myself really touching on what homelessness looks like, and the fact that the benches that were once used for our homeless neighbors to sleep on were now being torn up, or a bar was being placed in the middle to deter them from sleeping on there. I also brought home the fact that so many of our youth are latchkey kids, and it's one thing to be a latchkey kid and you're going to a home and an apartment, but if you're a latchkey kid and you're turning that key at a seedy, nasty motel, how horrible that must be, and you have to stay in place until your parent gets there. That was really hard for me. That was hard for me to digest. It was hard for me to see, and I would supply snacks and different things to the kids at the different motels, especially along the Sugar Creek corridor. It just broke my heart. And at that city council meeting, I was able to meet a wonderful group of people, including Stacy Phillips, who serves on my board. I met her and she told me about a location here in Uptown Charlotte on the corner of 9th and Tryon. She said we meet every Sunday morning at 8:30 and we just open up our trunks and our hearts, providing whatever our neighbors need. And I just jumped right in. But as I grew with them and I continue to serve every single Sunday, rain, sleet, or snow, I got to know more of the neighbors, and I learned that this was called The Wall, where we're currently filming at. And I was like, The Wall? And I said, oh God, I remember hearing about The Wall. That's where people were telling me how horrible it was. I said, honey, this ain't like this. We have a good time down here. So I was no longer feeling that word, The Wall, or the negative connotation. I said, honey, we hanging on the block. We are down here on the block. What does it say? The block is hot. The block is where you hang at. It's where you learn to get to know everybody. It's where we become family, where we become friends, where we literally love on one another in spite of what it looks like. We don't judge. We come with no judgment, and we love on each other every single moment that we can out here on the block. So that's how I was founded about 4 years ago. And then last year, 2020, I decided I was going to become a nonprofit. With the help of a beautiful young lady, Dr. Arlisha Israel. And I said, you know what, let's take this vision to the next level. She assisted me, not knowing the pandemic was going to hit, and we became an official nonprofit in May of 2020.
Job, you say something beat me, I'm in the street, you can tell. Right now it's been kind of rough to the coronavirus, this and that, but I'm trying to go forward a little bit, looking for choices. That sometimes I got obstacles, but sometimes I got blessings, and I'm trying to make it forward. And the street, you wanna hear a little bit, is tough. And there's a lot of challenges, struggling, but there's also sometimes, a little companionship and warmth, every now and then, but there's also chaos and fights, and but we hanging in there. I mean, sometimes we try to help each other, sometimes we try to kill each other.
So being sheriff or as the sheriff, when we're talking about the homeless community, some people don't think that the sheriff has time to deal with the disadvantaged, but I do. I've been dealing with the disadvantaged men and women who don't have shelter the entire time I've been in Charlotte for 40 years. Ironically, I have a lot of friends that I have on the streets of Charlotte, and not ironically, a lot of these homeless people, as we would say, candidly say, I believe voted for me. And I can tell you, I saw some people coming to the polls give me thumbs up, because these are people that I dealt with for many years. And we affectionately call one area on Pfeiffer Street the Wall. So I remember this guy was saying, why do you want me to vote for you? And he said, well, because I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And he asked that person, have you ever been to the Wall? And he says, what's the Wall? He says, right there, I know that you're out of touch. And the Wall at that time was only about 100 yards from us, and he couldn't even point over to the Wall and said, yeah, that place that you're talking about, the Wall. But as the sheriff, I have to take care of the people who are less advantaged on the street, because they are also my citizens and residents of Mecklenburg. So I never look down upon them. Oftentimes on Sunday, my heartstring pulls on me, and after church, I have the saying, if I eat, they eat.
So our mission and our vision, we are literally trying to give people what they need to self-sustain. And a lot of people think that our mission and vision is out here to end homelessness. I've never made that my plan or my mission. If someone has decided, ma'am, sir, I'm going to opt to stay in a tent to survive for whatever reason, it's not for me to question or judge. How can I help you to survive and sustain? That's what we are here for. Do I want to get more into housing? Do I want to connect more? Yes. And in our vision and mission, we want to gain the trust of those that we serve, so they can in turn trust the resources that are already in place. We've never been here to reinvent the wheel. All we want to do is try to reinflate that wheel that has gone flat, because we got way too many people out here homeless and not connected to the resources, and the resources are there.
I came here, I think almost 3 years ago, because I was told that Charlotte was a great place. And so I wanted to move from Pennsylvania because I was so tired of the snow that I was just like, this is ridiculous. I can't deal with this anymore. So I came to Charlotte because I was told it was a great place. And then I came here and met the captain of the Salvation Army here. And she told me that God brought me here for a reason. I asked her, what's that? And she said, I don't know. You got to pray to God and ask him. So I prayed, and God told me that I'm here to help people. So I try as best as I can, but I'm not working at the moment.
So the newest data that's come from, I believe it's the National Low Income Housing Coalition, but you'll have to check me on that, has that the housing wage, I think for a 1-bedroom apartment is $21, and for a 2-bedroom apartment is close to $24. And so again, we know that for so many of our neighbors, housing isn't affordable. So what do we do about that, right? And I think so often people look at homelessness and they say, oh, it's mental illness, it's substance use addiction, and certainly there's connectivity there. But we really understand homelessness to be a housing crisis, and again, you can't untangle it from the realities of affordable housing.
So the Salvation Army Center of Hope, when people hear that in the community, they pretty much know who we are. Basically, we're a homeless shelter. Now, what people may not know about us, if we move so much further than being an emergency shelter, our goal was really that women and families in this community wouldn't have to sleep on the street. And we fought that fight for years. For years, if we had to open up cots in the dining room, people in the hallways. But but it became so much until eventually those numbers outgrew what we had the capacity to do. We also do housing. So we have a rental subsidy program through our rapid rehousing program. We have a partnership with the Housing Authority now in Livian. We have 60 apartments in partnership with them, and the most exciting thing happened during this pandemic. A lot happened during the pandemic, but some good happened. Was we have just opened up a new family center, and we are housing 100 families intact. And if I say that like 100 families intact, it's because we are able to keep our dads with our families, like for years, like watching that as a person that, you know, my background in education and social work, knowing what it's like to pull families apart, knowing what it's like to work with families that are the most vulnerable, that are beaten down, dealing with all types of systemic challenges that have impacted their lives, and to say, Dad, you go to the men's shelter and mom and kids to come here, and doing that for years. And now to be able to have this housing program that can keep those families together, very excited about that. So, I mean, what we know about family homelessness is that when it's one mom and single children, you know, that's challenging, but moms do it all the time. When it's mom and dad with that family, you got that support. And we also see a lot of dads with kids that are leading the household as well. So we're able to serve those families now, and that's a good feeling. And not only just serve them, not only just give them shelter, but we have case managers, we have employment training on site, we got a health clinic on site. We have all of these programs that if people really wanted an opportunity for a life change, then there's an opportunity for you. Is it enough? Do we have enough affordable housing? No. We don't, but we do have an opportunity for as many people as possible to get into housing, and for others to maybe start looking at maybe some other housing options, whether that's shared housing or, yes.
Sometimes I say, well, I need to get my ID. I would like to start working in a warehouse, on a U-Haul, get me a job. That would move in the day, I can come to 11 o'clock, you eat. And sometimes the day just go like that, but with this little weather. But every morning I focus into doing something that can better myself, like in a job or whatever, or not only as far as working, but socialize with people. Like me, I'm kind of, if I can help somebody any kind of way, the way I can, because a lot of people help me. I don't know if it's through God. I mean, I know it's through God. So if it's good when somebody helps you, that's why I try to help, the way I can. And some people know that. But some other people get around think that you're doing that with prior money, like you want to get something, if I give you $5, I'm going to hunt you and say, now you got $500, now give me 50.
When I wake up in the morning, my main focus is, I thank God for waking me up every day. Even though I'm in the situation I'm in, I know it's going to be better. But my main focus be stability.
Pursue to making it to another day.
If I have somewhere that I'm stable, I can rest my head, maybe get me a hot meal every day, I'd be more focused on, being able to apply myself.
Try not to make the same mistake and put the feet twice.
I would say, because there were homeless people in my home city, and people always look down on people who are homeless, and I'm like, that's not fair to them, because they're trying as best as they can. You don't know what their situation is, and people could be homeless for a number of different reasons. So why would you judge them just because they're homeless? They could be homeless because they got kicked out, or because they didn't have the money, lost their job, or whatever. You don't know. So be a little sensitive to people who are homeless. It's not that they want to be homeless, it's that they ended up homeless. So don't judge them. That's what I would tell people.
Actually, it was a slow process, because it's not like, I knew I was going to be homeless tomorrow. It ended up being just a series of little things. Had business, My wife was 16 years. You know, she was struggling with me being self-employed, so money was coming in great during the summertime. Wintertime, it wasn't coming in. So you got that going on, that dynamic with my wife going on. She wanted me to have a regular job. I'm bringing $1,000 home a week. That is a regular job. I'm getting paid more, you know what I'm saying? So you got that going on. So, and then you got me getting introduced to crack cocaine. And then I'm working, and then, you know, so these things just start to, and then my divorce came. And then my van broke down the same day I had to leave the house. And then, so all of these things were like, they built up to where I ended up, actually, I think my first location was I was working for a guy, and I was working on his house, and he let me live in the house. He didn't have no water, nor did he have lights, but he let me live in there because I was fixing it. So we were supposed to have this deal where he let me live there. I'll work on the house, and he turn the lights on. So he never did that. And then from there, just the drug thing started getting in. 2018, I ended up being like nowhere to go but the woods. But of course, homelessness for some folks it's not like for some it's just like the eviction and you're homeless. For some folks, it's like, you know, it's just like a gradual thing where it's just things start to happen, and then you're just trying to struggle, you're trying to make it, and then just things get to a certain point where you just can't sustain anymore. Just can't sustain your life anymore. So you're just like, you know, there's nothing else that you can do but move out and try to find somewhere to go.
So the time is up for people living in Tent City. On Tuesday, they were told they had to leave the area by 5 tonight after the Mecklenburg County Health Director issued an evacuation order. It's due to the area being infested by rats.
Tent City, I love Tent City. Tent City made us realize what we weren't doing. Tent City made us open our eyes. Tent City was good for us. Tent City showed us that we were not ready to deal with any of that. Even to this day, we still having problems or issues in how to deal with Tent City. Tent City was a task force, I would think, that showed Charlotte that you are not taking care of their neighbors, residents, or their citizens. Tent City was an eye-opener. I actually, when people come in town, I would just drive them through Tent City and to see Tent City. For me, you know, Tent City was a place that I saw people that I'd admire. Tent City was a place that I could go and just lean on my car and have a conversation, and they said, "Sheriff, get out of here. You know, you're crazy." And we would go on. Or Tent City was, "Sheriff, what happened today?" And I'd tell them and say, "Woo, that's bad, see you tomorrow." So Tent City was people who needed our help. Tent City was an eye-opener. Tent City should be a lesson that we all should learn from, that we need to do more and take care of our people.
You know, my job for many years was street outreach. So the reality is we've had encampments, you know, along the railroad bridges in the woods. We've had encampments in our community for decades at this point. We've never had such a large or such a visible encampment. And it's interesting, that's not unique to Charlotte. Nationwide, we're seeing an increase of large visible encampments.
208 people who once called tents home now are living in hotels. The county says more needs to be done, but they need more help to do it.
Our community has grappled with homelessness for years, and so we've had a 10-year plan to end homelessness. We've had an organized effort to end chronic homelessness, and so our most recent community work has been the community coming together for the 2025 Housing and Homelessness Strategy. And that work is really around having a common community vision about what it's going to take to move the needle on homelessness. We didn't come out the gate and say this is to end homelessness by 2025. It really is to make an impact. And what we know, again, is that homelessness is the symptom of our affordable housing crisis. And so the work of the 2025 strategy is broad. So we're looking at how do you prevent homelessness? How do you create housing opportunities? What are all those other supports that make a difference in someone's life? Transportation and childcare and healthcare. And then we're also looking specifically at homeless services system, right? The street outreach, the emergency shelters, transitional housing. We're looking at all of those. So Roof Above has been part of each of those work streams because each of those work streams make a difference for the folks we serve. And so we're eager for this community to be unified in a vision for how we move forward. We believe deeply, Roof Above is our mission is to unite the community to end homelessness one life at a time. It really is going to take the full community. And so what I think is great about these community planning efforts is and the invitation to so many different people to the table because everybody's going to have a different role to play in ending homelessness.
So to be honest, I was in school and this was about almost 31 years ago. And I needed an internship, and there was a position that allowed me to work on the weekends. So it was convenient. Never thought about working with people that were homeless. I didn't even know what homeless people were. I thought homeless people were people that were on the street, on the bench, standing on the block. So I did not even know the Salvation Army had a shelter in Charlotte. So I get this job, and I never ever forget my first interview, and I wanted the job. And so I answered all the questions correctly, which at that time it was about, if somebody is not following the rules, are you going to be able to put them out? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I started working in homelessness. It was very interesting. You didn't see families, you didn't see children, you saw single women, because it was the women's shelter. And I remember when we would start serving a few families, and we would be so excited. We'd be like, "Wow, we got a family here with children," and all the staff would be playing with the children, having the children on their lap. Who would have thought some years later that would be, the new face of homelessness? Now the kids here, because I took them to DC 2 years in a row. And so being on the bus with our kids going to DC, and we had Mr. Anthony, who was our Boys and Girls Club director, and they was chanting some songs and, being who they are. But when I told you, taking those kids to DC and getting to know them, highlight of my career, highlight. Listen, so we get back to the shelter at 12 midnight, and I'm a little disappointed because we had the Washington Times following us around. And so they put the story in print before we got back. We were excited. The headline read, homeless children from Charlotte get a break from a molded bathroom and frozen food at the Center of Hope. That's how it read. So I'm like, oh my God. So I get off the bus and I go in the bathrooms. How about the bathrooms were tore up? I hadn't even been, I work here, I had not been in the bathrooms. I get off the bus and I go in the bathroom and I see the bathrooms. And I'm like, oh my God. So I call up Moss Park United Methodist Church, because they do capital grants at that time. And they fixed the bathrooms, and we keep those bathrooms they look like they 5-star hotel bathrooms now in this building. Those kids taught me that, though. I didn't know, because I was so busy raising the money, trying to get their moms out of homelessness, going to DC with the kids, until I hadn't been in the bathrooms. So our kids are special here too. Mm-hmm.
I thought a lot about my family, about my mom. At that time, she was going through bone cancer. Just before, she actually passed while I was on the street. But what goes through your mind is a lot of things, I guess the first being is like, how did I get here? Why am I here? You know, is there a purpose why I'm here? You know, why? You know what I'm saying? Why? And then I did. A lot of people, whatever, but I did a lot. Had to do a lot of reflection and take a lot of responsibility of why I am out here. Even though I still went out and smoked, you know, but that's just an addiction. Addiction, you know, you give up everything for one thing. You give up everything. I gave up everything. Everything. My children, my everything. For what I thought was something that I needed, you know, to calm my mind down enough to fight this thing that God said, I want you to do. So I'm fighting. As I'm smoking, I'm fighting, saying, God, no. How are you going to have somebody like me do what you asking me to do? I'm not even worthy, because look what I'm doing, Father. I'm doing this. I don't care. I still got this for you. You know? So it was so many emotions going through me every night. But most nights my mom was in my dreams. My mom and my sister. I lost a sister years before my mom. And a lot of times she would come in my dreams, you know, almost every night, if not every night. But the crazy thing is, when I got off the street, she no longer came to me. You know, it's like, you know what I'm saying? She no longer came to me, and I was like, wait a minute, what's good? You know, I was like, Lord, what are you doing? Every night while I'm on the street, even smoking, even when I'm high, like, when I go to sleep, my mom come in my head. But then once I get into a place where I'm safer, then it's like, no more dreams about my mama. It's like, so that told me that, okay, although this is a difficult journey, okay, this is the journey that you're supposed to be on. You know, because God says He orders our path, right? That means that no matter where He orders my feet to go, I'm supposed to trust Him. So no matter what turn I take, I'm supposed to trust, if that's what I believe, I'm supposed to trust Him to say, okay, I trust you that I'm on this road here, that you know where I'm going, but I have no idea where you're taking me. I have no idea where you're taking me. But I think all them times was you're building strength. God's building, strengthening the people. So when they do the work that I'm engaged in now, that I'm not afraid, you know. And I go in places with confidence, knowing that this is where I'm supposed to be, because I deserve to be here.
We serve every single day, and during the midst of the pandemic, we were serving multiple times a day. I'm talking about 3 meals a day. We're back down to every single evening we serve dinner, and on Sunday mornings we serve breakfast. But our breakfasts are a little different, because what we try to do is we try to not only serve a hot breakfast, we also try to provide toiletries, clothing, shoes, household items, blankets, batteries, flashlights, tents, tarps, sleeping bags. Whatever we can fill into my trailer or in the back of our vehicles, that's what we have out here. And we do it once a week, because a lot of times in the evenings, a lot of our neighbors are just trying to get a meal and go back to wherever it is that they're staying. But on Sunday mornings, which is how we started, why not end it big? And you know, on Sunday mornings, we come out here, we invite groups, civic groups, fraternities, sororities, churches, anyone to come and join us. And so last year we did like HBCU Sundays. So on October the 17th of this year, North Carolina Central is already coming back for the 2nd year. They were so excited. They bought a DJ. Man, we marched down these streets in the midst of a pandemic, but we spread so much love that day. You know, we partnered with the fire department as well as solid waste. So I mean, we make it really a way of connecting the community to those that we claim we serve. And that was very important for me. Even our connection with the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Department Community Engagement Team is very important, to connect those that we serve and let them know we're bringing the resources to you. Bam, these resources are right here in your face. They are here to help you. Because guess what? City employees know about resources that we might not know about. So if we have them out, guess what? They're bringing them right here to where our people are that we serve every day.
Where we miss the boat is create a relationship with these people. They are people. They fell on some hard times or misfortune, but they are people. They have hearts. they're human, and I think if we treat them a little bit better, you won't have a fear of them. If you're walking down and you speak to John every day on the corner, hey John, how you doing today? You know, speak to him. You know, he's not going to ask you for money every day. Or imagine you just walk up to John and say, here, I want you to get you something to eat today. Or I'm walking down the street sometime day, and it's a guy that I love to see, is Willie Carwell. You know, I saw Willie Carwell the other day, and I would just, Willie Carwell, and then, you know, he would say some things, curse me out, and say some things when I was in patrol. But I saw Willie the other day, and I said, hey, Willie, you had any breakfast? He said, no, I'm walking. I said, well, here, take this and go to breakfast. I'll see you tomorrow. He said, so you the sheriff now? I said, yeah, Willie. He said, oh my God. He said, they don't know who they got. I said, well, I still got you. So building that relationship, don't be afraid of them. And think about this, things that you have in your house that you may not want, they may want. Or, and I'm not saying they want to steal it, that they can do something with. Something that you may throw out, a backpack or something, why don't you just give it to them? And just take the time. Think of the money that we spend at a bar every night having drinks. I don't drink, but think of the money that you spend, $30, $40. Say 5 of those dollars, you make something. While you making lunch in a Tupperware or you get some food, why don't you just take some down and say, hey, you know, I saw you out here, you want something to eat? Here it is. Build that relationship, and I guarantee you the fear will subside.
A lot of people just want somebody to listen. But we're moving so fast, we ain't got time. Moving so fast, doing so much. We don't have time to sit down and listen to somebody who's struggling, you know. We see somebody on the bench with their head down, you don't want nothing to do with them. You know, why not stop in and say, hey, you okay? Is there anything I can do? And not be scared they're gonna ask you for money. They might not want no money. They might just want you to say hey to them. Because being homeless, you feel invisible. A lot of times, all I wanted to be was just somebody to see me. Just see me. People didn't want to look at you in the eye. You know? And that's unfortunate because, you know, I'm somebody's father. I'm somebody's brother, uncle. You know? And the homeless people you see, they belong to somebody. They might belong to you. You don't know. You know? So how can you pass your family member and ignore them and cross the street and act like you don't see them? Why not be a good Samaritan and say, hey, how you doing? You okay? I can't give you nothing, but I can, you know, I can talk to you for a minute if you want to talk. It's gonna cost you nothing.
These balloons and candles are for Bianca Broome. Family members tell me she was just heading to a cookout this weekend when she was hit and killed by a driver who didn't stop. Family members are grieving for 30-year-old Bianca Broome, someone they say was always making people laugh. Loved ones placed flowers, cards, and candles on this lamppost, all the tribute to how many lives she touched.
We deal with so much. I mean, we had a client that we all loved, like we loved Miss Bianca, and she, you know, she got hit and killed, you know, by a truck this weekend. And that, when I got that call on Sunday morning, I mean, I sat on my patio and I wept, and she was worth crying for. And let me tell you, this was a person that went from being angry, disgruntled, getting put out of the shelter, to really, for me, she was an inspiration. I mean, every time I see her, she would just try to just speak something in my life. She would just, and I saw her, like, I just saw her. I saw her, and I was walking to my car, you know, the other day, and she said, hey, Mr. Rhonda. And I said, hey. She said, you looking good. I said, thank you. She said, it ain't you, it's the Lord. I said, you right, Bianca. You right, it's the Lord. And, you know, I just, you know, and not just many Biancas, you know, and I say to people, you know, one of the things about doing this work is like, I'm so thankful for people that spoke in my life that were in position to pull me up, but I'm also thankful for the people, the homeless people that we serve, that I know that spoke in my life that gave me what I needed. And Bianca was one of those people, like they give you what you need. So just when you're having that day of, because you know, I got cussed out by some young mama, and then you'll get a Bianca that will remind you, it's not you, it's God. So, you know, so like how, so I think when I think about her, and I thought about her yesterday, and I said, well, you know, just, you know, the fact that she would cross our path to strengthen us to be able to continue to carry on the work. So, yeah, so she got hit by a hit and run truck driver. But the police caught him. They saw it and they caught him on West Boulevard. They caught him. And, yeah, so I'm thankful because we have people that died in homelessness. We had, you know, somebody that died from drugs the other day out here on the playground. You know, I'm thankful that we can be a place, though. When I first started working here, it was during the AIDS epidemic. And I used to say, and when families didn't want them, we took them in. We did. And we would let them lay down. And the staff would say, what's going to happen if they die? I said, we just going to call the morgue. But we're going to be that place where, because we serve, literally, when I think about the mission of the Salvation Army, and I think this is one of the reasons why I've been here for so long. When I think about the mission of this Salvation Army in Charlotte, and our mission is to serve the least. Well, I told you that we serve the people that don't nobody want. We serve people that don't nobody want. And there's some days that we feel like, you know, we don't want them here no more because they trouble. They always, you know, causing trouble. And we might give ourselves a break and they got to leave for a while. But we'll let them back in. Because there's nobody, you know. And so that is the part that I always felt like it is a reason that God put you at the front door of the Salvation Army.
That's where you got it. It's really in your character. Trust me. You got to rise up above the dumb stuff. You can never use an excuse of, they won't help me, so that's why I'm falling.
I just spent time with a woman who'd moved into one of our housing programs, and she said, I don't know how you found me. Like, I don't know how I got this housing, but, you know, she was talking about kind of the loneliness of experiencing homelessness and the isolation. And now all of a sudden she's in this apartment and she has a case manager, and Roof Above has that profound privilege of being a bridge, right? Like, she's doing the hard work. She's acting courageously. She's walking into this new life that's set before her. But we get to, you know, keep building these apartments and finding these apartments to be that bridge for folks out of chronic homelessness.
The last time I saw my mom, she was in hospice in Matthews. I usually came to visit her on Sunday for an hour or two. Because she had bone cancer, she was always in pain. Every time I came to see her, she was always in pain. But I used to come and see her on the weekend, on Saturday or Sunday, so, you know, because I was working during the week. So this particular day, I went in to see her. I was sitting there with her. She was watching TV. I kind of knew she was on painkillers because of, you know, you can tell by her eyes and everything. But I'm sitting there with her watching, you know. I smoked that night. So already I'm kind of paranoid about being around my mom when I didn't smoke the night before. I know she see my eyes. I know she know I'm doing something, but she my mom, so I need to be here anyway. So I forced myself to go. So I'm sitting there with her, and we started looking at each other. And I saw this look in her eye. This ain't my son. I don't know who this is. You know? And then next thing I knew, my brother was calling me and telling me that mom had passed. And I was like, oh wow. And I was like, oh, okay. And it just like, it really shook me. It really shook me. And when I think about it now, I'm really, I'm really hurt that I put her through that. So now I live my life to honor her. Now every day I get up, I want to honor her. And show her that her son is still here, you know, that I'm back. But, I mean, I know she still believed in me, you know, even when I was out there. But for me to spend that moment with her, and for me to use that moment to really energize me, to do something to honor her, you know, and honor her spirit, you know, that's what drives me. Thinking about bringing that person back, who she remembers. You know what I'm saying? She remembered me. I wanted to remember that person too. I had to go back to find that person.
I'm saying I learned this time me being homeless, bro. It's about choice.
That's right.
You know, even though I'm homeless, like I said, it's about stability. If I get somewhere to lay my head, and I know I get me a meal, you know, without, you know, causing any problems or anything, I'll be able to go get me a job and be productive. So that's my main focus right now, is getting in one of these housing programs, you know. That's my choice I choose to make right now, because I'm tired of being homeless. You know, this thing is, I can't blame nobody else. I got to do it for myself. Because there's a lot of people who have been homeless that famous, you know. All you got to do is stay focused and do what you got to do. Sometimes it's about sacrifice, even for the things you want to do, but things you need to do.
The one thing that motivates me first more than anything is our Father in heaven, because he purposely always encourages me to keep trying, and I do. So I'm like, okay, Lord, if this is what you want, I'll do it. So I don't have a problem not doing something because I want to. I always push myself to do better. So I'm thankful that I got a chance to be here, because this helped me to take steps to where I need to be.
So COVID has impacted every bit of our operations and our housing programs. So much of our housing we do in people's apartments. So case managers go out, visit with people where they are. That really tells you how someone's doing in housing. It's kind of that critical relationship. When COVID hit and prior to vaccines, we could only visit, kind of our protocol is we only visited with people outdoors. So we spent a year not going into people's apartments. And there was a lot, of course, that's missed during that time, and it impacts relationships. And so with the availability of vaccines and kind of greater knowledge of COVID, we've been able to go back into people's apartments, of course, masking and practicing social distancing, but to serve people there. The other impacts of COVID on housing, of course, there's been this really positive impact that we had as a nation, this moratorium on evictions. You know, who even knew that was possible? It's like COVID came, eviction stopped, CATS buses became free, you know, like all of these public policy tools that we didn't have the audacity to ask for or dream for when COVID came, suddenly were there at the table. And so I cannot imagine having gone through this pandemic without those protections in place. So the eviction moratorium has been big in terms of keeping our homeless numbers from, you know, growing exponentially during this crisis. With that moratorium now fading off, we're, you know, ramping up for what we anticipate will be an increase in homelessness.
You got people coming in every day to Charlotte, you know, from new places, even from across the water. You know, everybody don't have the stable foundation to be able to afford some of these high-priced apartments now that they have in Charlotte. So, I mean, they have to sleep in their car, you know, or find any kind of means to survive. I mean, this COVID thing really done knocked a lot of people out, because everybody's now is working from check to check. It can be the person you think the norm, and it could be the next day they home. But they'll act like they still ain't homeless, but I mean, reality, it has a way of punching you in the face, you know. Because these streets hard out here, you know, especially if you ain't got no foundation of no family or no support in your system.
Now, when the pandemic rolled around, we learned a lot, you know, because, you know, when COVID was spreading and people in the shelter became infected, literally we had to shift from this building to a hotel so people can have their individual rooms. So we had to do non-congregate shelter. What we also learned is that we probably didn't need to have 400 people in this building. So now we have half of that number here. Still challenging because it is a congregate shelter. Still navigating through COVID, pandemic, unknown, like we're doing in the rest of the country. One of the things that we've done well is that we have like public health director on speed dial, lots of support from the county and public health around COVID testing, vaccinations happening at the shelter. So we have that part pretty good. You know, we have masks and we have policies here around masks. We have a staff. Initially, our staff said, the governor said that people should be staying at home. I said, the governor is not talking about us. I'm sorry, we got to stay here. And not just being here to make sure that homeless people can get off the street and get in the door. I'm so thankful. Like I just like throughout my career have worked with a team, but this team this year, when you know, I said, can we step up and make sure we still house people? I know it's tough. I know we're in a pandemic. I know the apartment agents working from home. We got to get the people in housing. And so our team stepped up. They stepped up. We got more people housed during the pandemic than ever. One, we had more money because we had this COVID relief money. And I guess because other people were sitting still, we were moving. We took advantage of an opportunity to get people housed. And so very, very thankful for our staff that we didn't miss a day. And we're still doing it. Even with its new unknowns. You know, I think what COVID taught us that first year, and now we have this new unknown, it's like the fear is not, I mean, we're being careful, but that fear is not there. One of the things that doing this work, you know, praying every day, one of the things that we can all be a testimony to is like we came here, we took care of the people. It just felt like God took care of us. You know, bless us in so many ways, you know, whether, you know, well, health ways, mental health ways. I remember my friends that were working from home, they were like, I'm concerned about you. And, you know, I end up now, you know, counseling and comforting them, you know, because it was something healthy about us thinking of something other than ourselves and coming to work. Although we couldn't get into that category of being heroes, you know, our staff we were heroes. We've been on the front line and still on the front line. And we don't have any other option.
So one of the things that we really, really need is funding. What we want to do is we want to be able to offer this city a day service center. Currently right now there's not many options outside of urban ministries, so we want to make sure that we have a day service center because like I said, a lot of people may not opt to go to the shelter. You know, they may have their resources, and who am I to buck that? But there are times during the day when they need somewhere to go, to be able to charge their phones, to be able to utilize computers or iPads, to be able to talk to maybe like a minute clinic type situation where they can talk to somebody in the medical field, mental health, substance abuse, banking. We want to be able to offer that. And guess what? I want to have a gym. I want to be able to give the folks that I hang out here with that are my family an option to work out, to play ball, to use exercise equipment. Why not? Listen, I treat them like my family. They just like me. I need to work out. Hey, guess what? As good as I feed them, they need to work out too. So my day services center, our day service centers, Block Love's Day Service Center, that's what we need, and we're looking for funding toward that. And we always need sponsors for meals because we're out here every single day. We have successfully served well beyond 500 days since 2020, and we're still out here every single day. We're about to get prepared to serve another meal this evening. So we can always use meal sponsors, and the best way to reach us is team@blockloveclt.org. If you're willing to donate to us financially on our website, blockloveclt.org, there's a donate now button. We are 501c3, so it is tax deductible. You can also hit us up on Cash App, $BlockLoveCLT, or on PayPal at team@blockloveclt.org. And we have Venmo, team@blockloveclt.org. So listen, quite honestly, everything that we get, it comes back out here, and we're going to continue to serve every day. We are trying our best just to make sure we're able to meet the needs of those that we serve.
And the company that I'm starting, business that I'm starting, James Lee and Associates, I got blessed to go to Duke University nonprofit management class. Had an opportunity to go to Aspire Capital, which is a community business academy, and I went to peer support training. Peer support training is talking about, how do you help people who are struggling if you haven't struggled yourself. So, so I can help somebody who has been through substance abuse and homelessness. I can help them to navigate through the things that I had to navigate through, right? So in that, you need folks that, like you were saying, that's going to help you learn how to fish and put the right tension and all of that stuff. So you need somebody to go with you along your journey from homelessness to housing, from whatever the situation is to a better life. Some of us need that extra support, and I needed it when I got it through Uncle Sam. And what I want to do with James Lee and Associates, I'm actually creating a social enterprise where we're going to have our own housing, have our own way of, since I know about business, I had two businesses. We're going to create a business for those folks so they ain't got to worry about a job. They ain't got to worry about daycare because we're going to partner with a neighborhood daycare that's going to provide free daycare for them. Transportation, if we get a number of them going to the same job, we're going to pay transportation for them to go back and forth to work. So we're going to alleviate some of those challenges that some families have in order to be with them so that they can be better families. They can be better fathers, better mothers, all that kind of stuff. And the children could have a better opportunity because they ain't had nothing to do with their situation. So those type things are what and I say we as far as Judith Leach Brown with Project 704 and God. So when I say we, because I won't keep saying I, because I'm trying to get out of my, but when I say we, there's some things that God has just put before us. And Judy and I, we work well together because she advocates for those with disabilities.
So our success rate is right about that 70% as far as people successfully getting out of shelter. We look at that, everybody don't leave with their own key. Some people reunite with their families, some people move in with friends. So that's pretty good on a national level. Our challenge though is people being in the shelter for such a long period of time. So now we've hit this point where the housing is getting slimmer. So we have the rental subsidies, but finding a unit, trying to figure out how to incentivize property managers to take out subsidy. So there is a challenge as people are staying a longer period of time because we're at this housing slump, which tends to be, I know it's across the country. So the housing piece is a huge crisis. What I'm thankful for is that in Mecklenburg County, in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, we're having a conversation. We always talk about, are the right people at the table? Well, hey, I think the right people are at the table. If we're gonna make it happen, we have Jean, who is CEO of the housing, of Carolina Healthcare System, Atrium, and Kathy from Bank of America, and our county manager and city manager, and providers like myself and some others working together to try to come up with some homeless and housing solutions. And we got federal dollars, you know, millions at the table. Now, the thing about it is trying to create a system that we can sustain the good work that we're doing. Because we don't see it getting any easier because the housing market is, you know, it's tough.
I know homelessness can feel overwhelming, but there is a solution, and that solution is housing. And we believe together we can end homelessness.